All right, Cam, take us out to the Daily
Oh,
Shot line right now.
all right. Hey, wow. All right, I'd like to bring in a good friend of mine, JP Faiella. His company manages PR for a whole host of restaurants in the Boston and surrounding area. And so I'd like to get his perspective on how things are going. JP, how has this pandemic been treating you and your company?
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
Yeah? Good. Glad to hear it.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean, considering 90% of our clients are restaurants, it's been a little challenging, to say the least.
What have you guys been doing creatively to kind of try to keep these businesses afloat?
So I think like most of our clients, I would say the first 24 hours, I was in the fetal position crying. And then it's stage two. Then it's kind of like, what are we going to do to get out there and start driving some revenue? You know, initially everybody was kind of like, there's going to be a government bailout, or I'm going to just walk away from this. And I think that was the general sentiment for even if it was a microsecond, that's kind of what the world felt like. And then I think the next step was trying to figure out how to operate. The takeout and to-go model obviously cannot touch what restaurants were making before from a revenue perspective. But that's kind of the next step. Next step was making sure, making my rounds, calling all my clients, finding out where they were emotionally, because honestly, it takes a minute for everybody to try to figure out, where they're at. And then kind of moving into the next phase, which was kind of like, are you going to open? Do you want to just take out delivery? Let's get them down the menus, get them, smaller items going. And then I think that, interestingly enough, the news cycle has, then moved to, well, there's still a holiday coming up, or there's still someone's birthday coming up, and we want it to be special. And we're still stuck inside, but what can restaurants do to kind of like provide those special needs for those clients? And again, now the news cycle has moved on to kind of getting ready for the reopen.
Do you feel that every restaurant is sort of agreeing with this, sort of the closing down, or do you think that everybody thinks this is a little bit blown out of proportion and they're ready to get back into it and open up?
I think those are the kind of conversations that you had in stage one of, kind of loss. And I think those conversations are irrelevant at this point. I think what it's really about is trying to figure out, and listen, it's an interesting mix between your PPP money, what revenue you can drive from takeout and delivery, and what the phases of reopen look like. So I think that there's a lot of rhetoric going on, but it's all irrelevant. None of it really matters. What matters is trying to figure out what works for whatever client you're speaking of. We have clients that have 30 locations, and then I have a single outlet that has 30 seats. Those are huge. And then, then we represent the Massachusetts Restaurant Association. So that's like a whole other layer of this that the agency has had to work with. Listen, even beyond restaurants, we have fitness locations, we have spas. Those guys are getting crushed too. But the innovation that I've seen from people specific to restaurants, dinner kits, provisions, things like that, fascinating. The fitness side, leasing out their equipment. I had a client who, got a U-Haul and drove spin cycles to people's houses to save his business. I mean, business and life will always move on. It's kind of like what you do from an innovation perspective to make it work.
Hey, JP, Dan Gadbois here. Just a question for you as a vendor. So we just spoke with someone who owns a restaurant, but as you on the other side of it, how have credit terms been for you? Are restaurants, have they asked you for extended credit terms? Have you been able to do that? What kind of margins are you guys working on? Are you able to, I guess, is a roundabout kind of way.
So if we're getting specific to my situation, March 15th is when I started to get one or two calls of kind of like, hey, this is coming down the pike. It's going to be a big deal. And we had seen the build up. I don't know. honestly, guys, it's my first pandemic. So I was kind of like, well, maybe this is going to be a couple folks affected by it to different varying degrees. And within 24 hours, every single client was off. Every single client. I laid off my entire staff, myself included, and I didn't know what to do. And I think I took about 24 to 48 hours to really absorb it, figure out what next steps were. And then I called every single client and I sent them 0 invoices and forgave their debt and just said, forget March, forget April, I'm going to work for free. Because I think what I remembered was before the agency was what it was up until March, which was we had a large portfolio. I started by myself and I started for free. I started knowing that I wanted to open a business, and I did whatever I could to show that I had what it took to run a business. And I think essentially that's what this is. And if you're going to process it in the most healthy way, that's what you need to do. And so I just said, listen, I am nothing without my clients. You have been devastated by this. Let me help to get you back on the track that you need to be on to make money. And when you can, if you still feel like I have value, pay me. And we'll just see where that goes. And to be honest with you,
that's bold.
Yeah, well, but I also think too, it starts at the top. So my exposure, obviously, it's devastating to let your staff go. My biggest exposure right now is rent. I have a very large office in the South End, and it's very expensive. And I'm petitioning my landlord to give me a break. And if my landlord can give me a break, I can do this with my clients for a while until they get up and running. But if the vendors at the very top don't do it, it's a food chain. You literally have to have the person at the very top give you relief, and then I can give relief, and the restaurant can get up and running, and then it goes back up. Everyone starts paying everybody back up the cycle again. So,
everybody's got to take a haircut out of the gate, I guess what you're saying. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Thank you.
And I heard a little bit about the supply chain conversation
yes.
before I jumped on, and if I can put a little input into that.
Please.
So we might not be seeing that from certain restaurant level folks, but it is an enormous issue. There are literally farmers dumping produce in their fields and letting them rot. The supply chain is broken. Hearing about meat plants closing here and there and not feeling the effects immediately is one thing, but honestly, there has to be some due diligence research by reporters to actually report on this issue. There is so much food being wasted because these restaurants aren't open. And
it's not a problem of getting food to people. It's a problem that we have too much food and not enough people eating it from these restaurants. I mean, I know I go to the grocery store once a week now because I'm home every day and eating three meals at home. I'm running out of food constantly, there seems to be plenty at the grocery store, but I would normally eat half of my meals out at a restaurant.
Yeah, and there's actually, just to give you a visualization, if you go to the agency's Instagram, there's a great video that we put up there just recently about a farmer who is an onion farmer, and he literally is dumping thousands and thousands and thousands of onions just to let them rot in the sun because he can't get them to the restaurants. And you juxtapose that against the fact that, we have lines around the corner of people that can't get enough to eat. It's a huge issue. And I actually think that, as we move into this reopen in phase 1, 2, and 3, we will feel repair. We will start to move in the right direction. But the ripple effect of what we went through is enormous, and we're going to feel it for years.
JP, do me a favor. Tell people where they can find your social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Where are you on social media?
Sure. It's Image Unlimited on everything.
Perfect. Easy. They got to check it out. Let me ask you a question from a PR perspective, and I don't not name names or anything like that, But do you feel like restaurants are in a tough position, whether they're small or large? You have members of the business communities in their cities and towns or their counties, whatever level they have that sphere of influence. Do people feel like they have to take a PR tack on this, even though maybe they feel like they're open and they're ready for business and they feel safe? Is there some game being played for them that's tough?
I don't know if I understand your question.
Do you think, let me ask you this, your clients, if they could open up for business tomorrow, would they feel safe doing it, and are they okay saying that out loud?
Okay, so I think everyone wants to get open. And, you know, the restaurant community is one of the hardest working communities out there. And they thrive on being busy. They thrive on being part of a community. I think that when we have public officials that are in doubt and are provided the highest level of information, it's hard for anybody from a small business perspective to feel good or bad about making a decision like that. There are going to be spikes when we reopen. There are going to be exposure levels that we can't control, you know. Whether somebody says we're opening up May 18th or June 1st or January 1st, none of it matters. There's going to be these challenges that we face. I think the best thing that restaurants can do is appeal directly to their consumer base. And that's what I've been telling my clients. You know, before some of my clients opened, I told them to write a letter and post it on their town's Facebook page and say, hey, listen, I'm thinking of opening. Are you comfortable with this? This is what I plan on doing. What do you think? We live in a society right now where social media gives these small businesses a lot of power, you know, so that's how we approached it. And we've approached it every step of the way of trying to feel what the community thinks about the choices that we're making. And I think it's different for everybody. There's this huge debate going on in the news cycle of he said, she said, governor, mayor, I don't care, alderman, town manager, whatever you want to say. At the end of the day, none of this matters. It's important that the restaurant themselves appeal directly to the customers and the customers voice their feelings. Like if a customer is like, I will not feel comfortable coming back to your restaurant for 3 months, but I can support you in this way. Or I feel comfortable coming into your restaurant, and despite what the state regulations are, I feel like you need to do this. Some of that due diligence work has to be listened to and actually action on the side of the restaurant.
Oh, thank you, JP, so much for that. That's a really great perspective. Thank you so much. I know things are tough. I know the restaurant industry is hurting right now. I think we all want to do our part. I think we all want to get out and, you know, do that curbside pickup if we can, order that beer to go if we can, which, hey, that's a first in the U.S. It's been a long time since we've been able to do that, which is also exciting. Thank you so much. That's Image Unlimited Communications. I want to apologize for misspoke earlier about that, JP. I know you are all the owner of Image Unlimited Communications. Thank you so much. Check out his Instagram page to see that incredible story about the onion farmer. I watched it the other day. It was the fields and fields of onions that are just going. I mean, I don't want to eat it raw, but I love cooking with onions, and it was heartbreaking to see.